Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is now 7 o'clock, and I would like to call the June 25th, 2026 meeting into order. We are calling the North Fair Oaks Community Council special meeting into order. Roll call, please.
Commencing roll call now. Vice Chair Aponte,
Here.
Councilmember Esser,
Here.
Councilmember Whitney, Councilmember Daly, Councilmember Parisi.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Orozco, Councilmember Salmon.
Here.
And Chair Prado. Thank you.
A quick announcement. We do have interpreters joining us this evening. For those of you joining us in person, if you would like to listen to this meeting in Spanish, please use the headsets provided in the back table. We will now move on to public comment. Does anyone have a public comment on any topic not on the agenda? As a reminder, the council may not discuss or take action on items not on the agenda.
Yes, so we do have one speaker slip submitted. So when I call your name, you may come up to the podium and be given 2 minutes to speak. First, I'd like to call Gabriela Valencia to the podium. You're fine. You may begin with your comment.
Okay, great. Good evening, council members. I'm really glad that the parking issues in North Fair Oaks are on tonight's agenda. As you already know, many residents have expressed their frustration about parking issues during past council meetings. Simply having this topic on tonight's agenda is a small success for our community. It also reminds us that public comment isn't just a time for residents to speak. It's an opportunity for the council to identify the issues that matter most to the community. 2 requests. First, and this request may sound familiar since I've mentioned it at previous meetings, I encourage the council to find a way to keep a record of the topics raised during public comment. When the same comments or concerns are raised by multiple residents over time, those topics could be considered for future meeting agendas so that they can be discussed and addressed more meaningfully. Second, I ask the council to advocate for a way for residents to sign up to receive North Fair Oaks Council meeting agendas by email, just as they can for other county meetings. That would make it much easier for residents to know when issues they care about will be discussed, and it would encourage more people to participate. I believe these 2 simple changes would strengthen communication between the council and the community and help ensure that residents feel heard. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, we have Christine Ochoa. You may begin.
Good evening, council members. Hi, I'm Christy Ochoa. I'm the Assistant Director of Community Affairs for Stanford Healthcare. And a couple months ago, I had the privilege of doing a presentation about our vision for a cancer center in Redwood City. There have been updates for that project, and I would love to invite everyone here and the community to visit our newly updated website with those new updates. I would also love the opportunity to share a new presentation with this council, but for now, I want to invite every webinars, both in English and Spanish 2 weeks ago, where we shared information that was open to the public, again, both in English and Spanish. They will be updated on our website as well. So in the meantime, I do invite you all to please visit our website with those updated plans and to share your feedback as well. We also have a newsletter where we will be sharing those updates on a regular basis. and would love the opportunity. Our community first approach takes the consideration and feedback from the community directly to create and establish this project, and we do take it heavily into consideration. Again, I'm in community affairs, so I would love to get the feedback. It goes a long way when it is written in a survey form, and I appreciate the time today and look forward to having the opportunity to present in detail further to this council. Thank you again. My name is Christy Ochoa. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last call for public comment in person or online. Okay. No comments. Back to you, Vice Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to item 3. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
The second? And can I get a roll call vote?
Vice Chair Aponte,
Yes.
Councilmember Esser,
Yes.
Councilmember Daly, Councilmember Parisi,
Yes.
Councilmember Salmon.
Yes.
Awesome. Agenda is approved.
Thank you. Item number 4, we'll now move on to our first item, a presentation from the Planning and Building Department.
So please bear with us. Tech is kind of delayed, so thank you.
You guys ready? Thank you, Vice Chair, members of the council, and also members of the public, both in attendance and virtually. This item is a consideration of an off-street parking exception to allow the continued use of a one-car garage where 2 covered parking spaces are required in association with a proposed interior remodel, an 877 square foot addition to the existing single-family residence located at 803 14th Avenue. Staff just wanted to note that the applicant, Eric Kuhn, and also a member of the design team is in the audience for any questions that the council may have this evening. Staff will start this presentation with a brief description of the project's scope of work. Next slide, please. All right. So the project scope of work is a proposed interior remodel and addition along the existing 3-bedroom residence's northeasterly side, creation of a new 4th bedroom, expansion to the existing attached 1-car garage, and a reduction of a side setback to the minimum requirements to accommodate the addition. The new bedroom triggers current county parking requirements with respect to 2 covered parking spaces, which the project is also requesting an exception to this requirement based on site constraints and existing development, which will be discussed later in this presentation. So now staff will briefly turn to the project's location and site street view for context related to the parking exception request. Next slide, please. All right, so this map just shows the project location in the yellow box, which is on the left-hand side of 14th Avenue as you travel northeasterly between Fair Oaks Avenue and Athlone Way. Next slide. So here's the existing residence's street view, which shows the existing 1-car attached garage and an expanded driveway that could accommodate an uncovered parking spot. Now we will turn back to the context and discussion of the exception request. Next slide, please. So on the left side is the proposed site plan, with the right side showing the existing site plan. So the key takeaway from this slide is that the proposed reduction to the required 5-foot side setback to accommodate the expanded garage as much as possible, but site constraints still prevent the expansion uh, of the garage into a county compliant 2-car attached garage. Next slide, please. So on this slide, we have the existing floor plan on the left with the proposed floor plan on the right. So the green area represents the addition remodel area, and within it is the new 4th bedroom's location. And because of the 4th bedroom creation, the project must now comply with current county parking requirements of 2 uncovered parking spaces, each being 171 square feet in size and 19-foot long by 9-foot wide dimensions, which results in a 19-foot by 18-foot wide or 342 total square foot size garage to accommodate the required parking spaces and being compliant with county parking regulations. So the existing residence includes an approximately 20-foot by 11.5-foot wide attached garage, or approximately 230 square feet. The proposed expansion would increase the garage's length to approximately 26 feet and the garage's width by 14.5 feet, or a total of 378 square feet in area. And although the expanded garage would satisfy the minimum area requirements of 342 square feet and length requirements of 19 feet long, it would not meet the minimum 18-foot width requirements. And even with the expansion to the minimum 5-foot side setback that was shown on the previous slide, the site lacks sufficient width along the northeasterly property line to accommodate a compliant 2-car county garage, or a county compliant 2-car garage. Next slide, please. Therefore, the project requests an exception to county off-street parking requirements. And in order for the exception to be recommended for approval, staff must make the following finding in bold on the slide, which simply requires a project to be nearly as compliant with the requirements as reasonably possible. Staff finds that the existing site development and constraints do not provide sufficient space for another covered parking space. That strict application of the requirements would result in significant project redesign, particularly at the front of the existing residence where no remodel is currently proposed, and that the existing driveway can accommodate another uncovered compact parking space on the property. And this proposed uncovered space would bring the project into compliance as reasonably possible with county off-street parking requirements. Next slide, please. Staff also notes that the project conforms to the North Fair Oaks Community Plan and also complies with the R1 S73 zoning regulations and will comply with county parking regulations as reasonably possible with the continued use of the expanded 1-car attached garage and this newly created uncovered compact parking space proposed in the driveway under this requested exception. Next slide, please. Therefore, staff recommends that the North Fair Oaks Community Council provide a recommendation to the Director of Planning and Building on the proposed off-street parking exception to allow for the continued use of a 1-car garage and creation of a new compact uncovered parking space in the existing driveway where 2 covered parking spaces are required. Next slide, please.
For some reason, this line has it's trouble showing
Oh,
up.
Okay,
Yeah.
you can go back to the
The
first
first, right?
slide.
It's the same, right? Okay,
Mhm.
yeah.
So this concludes staff's presentation, and we are available for any questions the council may have. Thank you.
It'll,
I have a question.
Are there any questions from council members?
Kelly.
Council member Parisi?
Hi, thank you. First, I drove by this spot earlier today, and just want to say a couple of things. One, to the owners who are, I think you're in audience. Really appreciate that you are expanding and keeping in the design and the character of that neighborhood. County office, I think you used a probably Google map version or street view of what that property looks like. Right next to it is a fully remodeled, almost done gargantuan house that's multiple stories. So I just want to say thank you for that. My question is that does this add to the housing development numbers? Because they're adding another bedroom. So does this benefit what we have to do in terms of meeting that requirement?
Thank you for the question, council member. Is the question, just to clarifying, is the question related to the regional housing need allocation where we have to produce a certain amount of housing units by 2031?
Correct. So does
Yes.
this add? Okay.
My understanding is because it's already an existing residential unit, that it would generally not count. Typically, what would count for new housing units would be something like an accessory dwelling unit or a SB9 unit, where an actual new unit is being produced. The fact of the matter that a fourth bedroom is being created generally doesn't rise to the eligibility requirements of adding it to the RENA allocation. So the short answer is no.
Got it. Thank you.
Residents, it will be parking, one.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear.
Kathleen, your mic is not on.
Should be on the top.
Okay,
there.
so you will be parking one car in front of the other. So it's your problem to have to move the cars back and forth. Are you expecting that fourth bedroom to add any street parking?
Dylan.
Side by side, it does. Okay. Okay.
Can you
Okay.
come to the
Can
podium?
you come to the
please?
podium? Thank you.
Oh.
So that way people online can hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, the question was like, why be parking one car in the driveway, but we still have two car space side by side on the
Okay.
driveway after the remodel.
Okay.
And then we'll still have that one new single car garage.
Okay.
So
And then is there a chance that 6 more people are going to live there and we're going to find
No.
6 more cars on the park,
which is
on the street?
why we're adding a fourth bedroom, not a ADU, because it's just family of 4.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I got a question. This is George Swan. The current garage, is it actually utilized for a car or is it living space now?
Yes, it's utilized for car. Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do I understand that this is going to be an exception to the minimum setback on the side of the garage as well, or were they maintaining a 5-foot setback?
So the exception is just for parking. The proposed addition is actually going to the minimum required 5-foot setback in this zone.
Great, thank you.
Are there any public comments in person or on Zoom?
It is now for public comment for this agenda item. If you have a public comment, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom or bring a speaker slip up to the clerk during this time. Nope, we have no public comments. Vice Chair, back to you.
We can now entertain a motion on this item
Move to approve item 4.
in a second.
Second that?
Second, third,
Can I get a roll call vote?
Commencing roll call vote now. Vice Chair Ponte,
Yes.
Councilmember Esther,
Yes.
Councilmember Whitney,
Yes.
Councilmember Daly,
Yes.
Councilmember Parisi,
Yes.
and Councilmember Salmon.
absolutely, yes.
Awesome. Motion passes for this item.
Thank you, council.
We will now move on to our next agenda item. Item number 5, discussion of North Borough parking concerns, a presentation given by Nicolas Calderon from the County Executive's Office.
What was that?
I said, I think I've seen you before.
Once or twice. I like coming here. You all are, I enjoy these meetings. Very welcoming. I'm gonna stand if you all don't mind, otherwise I won't see everyone over the podium. Again, is this better? Awesome. Again, my name is Nicholas Calderon. I'm with the County Executive's Office. And I appreciate the council having this item on the agenda. I appreciate the residents attending this meeting. I do want to start by acknowledging I am well aware through my research that this is a topic that the council has discussed in the past. I know that the county has evaluated this numerous times. I know that in 2019, a proposal came before the council and then went before the Board of Supervisors for a residential parking permit program that was ultimately not approved. So I know that there's a rich history here. And it also, through my research, I recognize that it seems like as there's a new person that comes in my position, or maybe as new council members come on, the topic comes back again. So I have done a fair amount of research on this. So I just appreciate you all continuing to engage in this conversation. I appreciate the council being willing to have this conversation again. Next slide, please, or first slide, maybe. So what I was hoping to accomplish tonight is not to dive into solutions, but is actually to spend some time defining the problem. Also recognizing that the detailed report that was done by Nelson Nygaard was done back in 2013, but also recognizing that the work done in 2019 is somewhat out of date at this point as the affordability crisis continues. That's a huge impact that is impacting the parking situation in North Fair Oaks. And so I wanted to spend tonight just, again, defining the problem. And so as an overview, my hope is to maybe ask a few questions to get the thought juices flowing, give you some overviews of maybe some ideas that we have examined or looked at, and then get into a more detailed thought exercise where we're going to really actually have more of a back and forth. And then the plan will be, we will take that information and we're going to take that back to the county. We will evaluate that. We will look at how the problem was defined, where the problem is worse, and how we may be able to come up with some solutions. I do also want to add that I know there's a lot of talk around residential parking permit programs. I don't know if that's the solution, right? That is one of the options that needs to be considered again, but I'm not quite convinced until we can define a problem that is or is not the right solution. But so some of the questions that I want to pose for the council and the community is, what is the problem that we're trying to solve? And what is the source of the parking demand that is most impacting North Fair Oaks? Are we looking at a daytime problem, a nighttime problem, a problem that exists all day long? Are we looking at something that is most impacted during the week, on the weekend? But also who is most impacted by this problem? Next slide, please. I think we also need to spend time tonight talking about what the program goals would be, whatever that program is. Is it to preserve reasonable access to curb parking? Is it to discourage long-term storage of inoperable or unused vehicles? Are we trying to maintain daytime access for caregivers or visitors or service providers? Are we trying to prevent non-residents from occupying parking spaces? One of the things I've learned kind of through my research is that there are some who are essentially using North Fair Oaks as a park and ride, right? That's occupying parking spaces, right? And so I want to spend time talking about what is the goal of the program that we want to develop. Is the hope that we're somehow going to provide guaranteed parking spaces. I think we all know that's not going to be feasible. But I think we all need to at least be able to say it out loud that that's not going to be feasible, so we can move past that. And then I think there also needs to be a conversation about how we balance residential and commercial parking. Next slide, please. And then if we were to go down the route of a parking permit program, I think there needs to be serious conversations about how that program is structured, who qualifies, how many permits would be issued per either per home or per driver. Do we treat single family residents different than multi-family residents? So we have to look at all of that, right? And those are just some of the questions that I throw out, again, recognizing that we're not diving necessarily into solutions right now, but these are the things that we should be thinking about if a residential parking permit program is the direction we want to go. A residential parking permit program is only as effective as the program's ability to manage the number of vehicles. So if each resident gets an unlimited number of parking permits, the program is ineffective. If we are only going to give, call it 4 parking permits per address, and an address has 6 vehicles, where are those other 2 going? Are we now creating a situation where that's bleeding into adjacent areas? Are we going with strict enforcement? If we're going with strict enforcement, we're not going to have residents in North Fair Oaks being essentially penalized with citations. So those are the things that I really want to make sure we're talking about out loud and acknowledging. Next slide, please. So I wanted to provide some examples of programs that we've looked at, because when I reached out to jurisdictions, what I found was no one's really very few are doing a one-size-fits-all, meaning a lot of them are coupling different ideas. Next slide, please. So for example, up in San Francisco, they have what they call the payer permit program. So you can either have a permit, which will allow you to park in the parking permit zones, or if you don't have a permit, you can then pay via a parking meter or other type of fee collection. And so you're getting 4 permits per address. They're charging $218 a year for those. But that is an opportunity to both support residential parking and promote turnover of vehicles from a commercial perspective. Next slide, please. One of the other ones up in Seattle is the restricted parking zone. And this is one where you are coupling a time limit, so call it a 2-hour zone or 4-hour zone, with parking permits, right? And so if you live in the area, you have a permit, you could park longer. And if you're visiting the area, then you have a limited amount of time to park. Again, they also went with 4 permits per address, and they're charging about $95. Next slide, please. And then there's Cambridge, Massachusetts, which went with a strict parking permit only. So if you have a permit, you can park in the area. If you don't have a permit, you can't park in the area. There's no way to pay to park. There's no time limit. It's a strict no permit, no park situation. Next slide, please. And then the next 2 are really just other ones that are more locally. We looked broad and we also looked local. Redwood City has a parking permit program that is similar to that of Seattle, as does San Mateo. Next slide, Kenny, sorry. And San Mateo has a similar program as well. Kenny, next slide, please. So the other thing that I wanted to spend some time talking about are non-permit program ideas that I think also need to be part of the conversation. And these could include things like 2-hour parking zones, 4-hour parking zones. Right now, you have to move your vehicle every 72 hours. Do we need to reevaluate that? Should that actually be every 24 hours? We can look at things like strict enforcement. Again, strict enforcement means that there's going to be impacts to those who may be coming from outside the area, but also those who are living in the area. There are no oversized vehicle restrictions that can be placed. And as I drive through, I was explaining to the council member that Councilmember Daley, that I've been driving through North Fair Oaks during different times of the day because I want to see what it's like, right? Is this something that is worse at 6 o'clock? Is it worse at 3 o'clock? Is it worse at 10 a.m.? But during my driving through the neighborhood, I have seen a lot of larger vehicles. And so that's something that we can certainly include in the conversation. And then other jurisdictions have actually started to examine the feasibility of changing their parking regulations so that you're requiring that you don't just move your vehicle every 72 hours. You have to actually move it to a new block. So there are things like that that can also be examined. But I think, again, we have to be open to looking at all different types of solutions to this problem. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what I was hoping we could do is spend a little bit of time talking about the different neighborhoods in North Fair Oaks and talking about maybe areas where we want to focus attention more than others. And so that's something that I am going to ask the council to really think about and provide feedback on, as well as during public comment. Obviously, would like to hear from the residents as well. But I think in order for us to start tackling this, we have to bring it down from all of North Fair Oaks to specific areas. And so that's something that we will eventually get to. And now what I'm hoping we can do is each slide is going to have some prompts on it. And certainly I can show you all the prompts and then turn it over to the council. I can show you all the prompts. We can do public comment, and then the council can help fill in some of that information. I'm certainly happy to do it either way, or we can fill it in as we go along. I'll turn it over to the chair, though, as to what your preference is.
We can go over the questions and into public comment.
Okay, perfect. So some of the questions that I'd like for us to be able to discuss are, what are the priority areas? So again, going and looking at the geographic areas in North Fair Oaks and saying, right now, where do we want to put our initial focus, recognizing that different areas are having different challenges or sources of challenges. Next slide, Kenny. And then, I really want to spend time understanding what is the problem that we're trying to solve. Again, I kind of opened with that, right? Are we talking about trying to restrict people using North Fair Oaks as a park and ride? Are we looking at vehicles that are not actually being used, but instead being stored? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? And frankly, what are the problems that we're not going to be able to solve for? And then again, what are our goals? And Kenny, last slide, is what are our concerns, right? So what are the things that are concerning us that we need to keep in the back of our mind as we're moving forward so that we can avoid some of those pitfalls, if you will. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the chair, take any questions, and then we can take public comment before we start filling this.
I got a question.
And then Kenny will fill this in real time.
Yes, Councilmember Sim.
So I love that we're going over this. I think it's critical, and I want to give this as much attention as we can. My concern is we're on a limited time here, and you're taking this to the county with some thoughts. Something of this gravity, I feel we should have a long, dedicated study session to go through where we can all just, really beat the hell out of it and come back with a very detailed list to go to the county and say, here's some problem areas, here's some pitfalls from our past history that we've already discussed, and really dig in deeper. my personal thought is, by all means, I want the community, since we have the community here, let them beat it up. Let's hear from them and hear what we may not be aware of. And let's mark that. But for a deeper dive, in addition to that, let's have a long study session. Just my
Yeah,
thought.
and George, just so you know, we're happy to have this conversation. As you know, we will have as many conversations on this topic as are necessary. It's obviously a big issue. So this shouldn't be perceived as the one and only bite at the apple, if you will. This is something. This is an opportunity for, I guess, for all of us to start getting on the same page, recognizing that we've all been part of different conversations.
Okay. Yeah, my concern was that we finished a session tonight and that list is now going to the county and we don't have additional time to continue adding on to and discussing it. I didn't want it to be shortchanged and not really be as detailed as it should be.
Appreciate that. No, tonight is really more about establishing a starting point.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other comments?
Comment? Yeah. I think we've waited too long to address this, and I think that there will never be a one-size-fits-all program that's going to work for North Fair Oaks. So I support the idea that's been brought up by you, is to identify some key areas and really test out some things, talk to residents, get some data. We know that we don't need a bunch of data to show that there's a problem, because we already know it exists, but we could go to different neighborhoods. I can identify 3 or 4 right now and talk to residents, find out what the issues are, find out who the commercial vehicles belong to. I feel like this is a boots on the ground. We need data, but we need it specific to specific areas, because I don't believe a permit program is going to solve the problem. I hate the idea of enforcement and tickets, but if that's what it's going to take for some people to get the message that, no, you can't do this anymore. There's just a whole bunch of things that I think we can address and look at and try neighborhood by neighborhood, but just start with 3. So the county doesn't spend the next year trying to come up with a program. I think we as a council and the community could pick those 3 areas and boots on the ground, get some data, understand if a permit program might work on certain streets, if getting commercial vehicles might work on a separate set of streets. I think that's the way to approach this. And I've felt that almost from the beginning. So I would love to see more of what you're talking about.
Thank you. And I agree, right? I think on a problem this large, you have to break it into smaller pieces. I think, again, that's what we're trying to do, is start at what is that first small piece.
Yeah.
Council, yes?
If we want to dig into what some ideas are, or let me know how you guys want to go forward.
Okay, Councilmember Whitney?
Thank you. I've been waiting a long time to talk about parking. It comes up every 2 years and we're in a rush to do something and then we kick it down the road, like kicking a can down. I recall that the county had drafted the permit ordinance as like a trial, and they were looking at a different jurisdiction, but said they would be willing to try it in a neighborhood here if it made sense, and that we would do an election in that neighborhood to ask what they wanted. And we were looking at like Shelby Park, where Shelby's restaurant is. There's a pocket neighborhood between 5th and where all the concrete barriers keep you from going to the next neighborhood. They're not super impacted with spillover parking. I have a bunch of comments, but I'll just talk for like 2 or 3 minutes and then let everyone else share. But I'm passionate. I care about the quality of life. About 3 or 4 months ago, we had a speaker from the Multicultural Institute that talked about they were able to help a young lady that was renting a space in a living room with 5 other men. And the landlord raised her rent for a floor space in the living room from $400 to $600. And they were able to help her get into like an independent or higher quality living situation. But I think it's actually the biggest small business is landlording in North Fair Oaks, and we're very much undercounted, even in the census. If you go knock on every door, people aren't going to admit how much over occupant residency we really have. And the reality is you may get a ride to work, you might get a bicycle, but eventually you're going to get a car or a carpool or something. And street parking is a finite resource, and it's a public good. It's like a public park that belongs to everyone. And even if you have a house adjacent to it, you don't own the street parking, even though there's like a entitlement notion in people's heads that the street parking near my apartment building or near my house belongs to me and I should have a say in who gets to park there. I also see a lot of the commercial stuff. On El Camino where the vape shop was, it shut down and they started a moving company. Big ass moving truck in the right lane, parked all day. It eats up some of the lane. And it makes it really risky when I'm biking home to like get around that. I'll take the sidewalk, which some people hate, but I'd rather live through traffic for that segment than to die, to assert my right to take the lane. We have like a neighborhood business district up and down Middlefield. We have another one on El Camino, and we also have another one on Fifth Avenue. And each of these have needs for like high turnover spaces. And you need a mix of like 20-minute to 2-hour spaces because they need the foot traffic, they need the customers. So we need to focus on that and maybe wrap around. There used to be like a laundromat across from the Taco Bell. I live in that neighborhood with Buckingham and all that. Now it's an animal hospital, but why not just on El Camino, but wrapping around, have 20-minute or 2-hour spaces to help feed those businesses. There's like a cannoli place, old Italian bakery. There's no friggin' street parking, but if you had 20-minute and 1 hour and 2-hour spots creeping in like half a block from the main strip, I would do the same thing on Middlefield and the same thing on Fifth Avenue. There's definitely not enough parking in that lot with the nail salon, the Mexican restaurant, the barber college, the laundromat, some other random business. I think it's like a pet washing thing, but you end up having to park on the street or across the street or, it's hectic. And part of what we need to do is support the businesses because that's how people thrive and better themselves. So I don't want to go overboard on the permit system. I want to acknowledge that there's multiple constituencies. There's the residential folks, but there's also the business community. And I grew up in the South Bay. I went to San Jose State, and they had no permit parking around campus. And the college charged like $81 a semester for a parking permit, and they had more students, like 30,000 students and 8,000 spaces in the garage. And they sold everyone a permit, and it was a license to hunt, and it pissed everyone off. So you drive around the neighborhood to find free spots, and I'd park as far away as like underneath 280 and walk 12 blocks to campus because why should I pay $81? And so I think looking at areas adjacent to San Jose State, because I've revisited and now they've rolled out permit parking. I think that's a good case study. We don't have to go all the way to like Portland or Boston or whatever. That happened in the last 15, 20 years, and they figured out something because they share a lot of characteristics. It's a highly diverse, highly dense neighborhood. Maybe about 20% of the apartments are like students and 30 or 40% are, Hispanic immigrants, Asian immigrants. It's like a really dense area, and it's going through gentrification just like North Fair Oaks, but they kind of worked out this growing pain thing. So I could go on for a long time. I think everyone should get a chance to pipe in, but it's a complex issue. And one way that we advance it is we all speak up to the best of our ability with ideas and thoughts and just plow forward until we run out of time. And then we continue it and just keep talking about it, ask for the county's help. And I'm game to try like a permit parking program. I think midday is like the best time to get parking or move your car if you got to move your car. Weekends, it's crowded, but sometimes you get lucky. People will like come out and move their car so their buddy can move in. There's like informal arrangements. I don't know. It's complex, but I'm glad that we're talking about it. And anything we can come up with probably won't be worse, but it could be if we do the wrong thing. Like if we institute permits and all of a sudden all these people that have cars can't park because the landlord keeps the permit for themselves and you're screwed. Anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, I think whatever direction we go, we'll want to look at it on a pilot basis so that we can evaluate it, establish metrics, and then pivot accordingly. I rarely see anything on a topic this complex get solved on the first try. So yeah, the goal is not to make it worse, but we'll have to do a couple iterations probably.
Councilmember Parisi?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Nick, for bringing this to our council and the community. Obviously, you know better than anyone what a pain point this is. And I love the way you're approaching it. I'm a data person myself, and I think we need to start with the data and see where it leads us. That being said, there's a lot of pain points in North Fair Oaks, but we have never seen the amount of people that have come out to talk about what is happening right off of Middlefield / Edison, in that mixed residential commercial corridor. We not just the Synapse Sports House situation, we had community members repeatedly come when this was not on the agenda just for public comment about car shops that just use an entire street to park cars. And related to that, depending on where you are in North Fair Oaks, you may have curbs and you may have not curbs, and you may have gutters or you may not. And what I have witnessed, and neighbors have sent this to me, people have actually parked on their private property because the county lines are not clear. They've parked in their driveway, in front of their driveway, in partially their property, partially county property, because again, it's not zoned, and they live off of either Middlefield or Edison, and it's confusing. I don't want to say it is done with ill intention. I'm just saying it is not clear. I also think we have very different issues. We have the oversized vehicle issue, we have the commercial issue, and we have the fact that we have multifamily homes. And almost on every agenda since I've been on this community board, including tonight, most of these homes were zoned for one-car garages, and they are multifamily residents. So it's also the patina and the character of our neighborhood that garage parking, which somebody asked, might have been Kathleen, the good question, which is of the resident who came earlier, whether that was being used already for housing or other uses. Most people don't park their cars. I am literally sitting in a garage that is zoned for my house, and it doesn't have my car, my car wouldn't fit in here. So I think there's that. And as it relates to time of day, weekday, weeknight, I think we need to let the data speak for itself. Because if you're talking to the residents who live near Sports House, they will tell you after 4 o'clock and weekends, especially when they run 2,000 people tournaments, is a nightmare for their community. You can ask people who live near commercial areas that have high traffic that the daytime is a nightmare. So I think we should not lean on our individual lived experience and really get the data. And I would like to recommend that we start off of Middlefield and Edison between, call it, I think it's like 4th to like 9th, 10th, covering Synapse Sports House. And I'll stop there.
Any other comments?
Question, would things like setting a ruling that, commercial, let's say landscapers who bring 6 or 7 trucks into a neighborhood and park there, the guys live out in East Bay and, would that require an ordinance from the county to go after them? So are certain things going to require ordinance to go in front of the board of supervisors, or those are the kinds of things that sheriff can do, or
Yeah, Councilmember. So depending on the action proposed, it very well could take either an amendment of the county ordinance code or an adoption of a resolution by the Board of Supervisors pursuant to the ordinance code. So for example, a no oversized vehicle parking restriction would require a resolution of the Board of Supervisors pursuant to the existing ordinance code to say do a parking permit program or to change the parking durations. That would require a change in the ordinance code.
Okay, so before we go to public comment, I did have a couple comments. So for me, the priority area, as mentioned, was Middlefield, between Pacific Avenue all the way to Fifth Avenue. I believe it was a year ago when we had a presentation about Middlefield Road and, when all the lights were finally installed and everything. And we got told that we're waiting for the traffic to settle to see, if parking meters could be something we could look into. I know when Middlefield Road was being planned back in the 2010s, parking meters were not moved forward because of the whole affordability issue. But now I'm hearing from business owners that, the repair shops there, take up most of the parking. So that for me is one of the priority points. I also want to bring up, I guess, South Fair Oaks, on the other side of the tracks here. Maybe we could look at Westmoreland Avenue, that long stretch near Target. When I've been out there walking, that stretch is also pretty impacted with traffic. There's a lot of residential and apartments, there's single home and apartment buildings there. So if we can add that, I would appreciate it. So besides that, the problems that we are trying to solve is, I guess, finding a balance between the residents and the businesses. As another council member mentioned, we want to help the businesses who did have a big financial impact during the whole construction of Middlefield Road. Now, with the loss of parking, I know there's that Second Avenue parking lot, but we do have elderly people, in the neighborhood who, can't park and then walk a couple blocks to these businesses. And then my second point, I guess, would be I wanted the sheriff's office here at least to, take some questions about, daylighting or people parking in by hydrants. This issue was touched upon a lot during the whole Synapse and Sports House items. With visitors coming in and parking where, you're not legally allowed to. And when residents call in, the sheriff's office either don't show up or they call the businesses to warn their patrons that, oh, we're coming out to, cite. And then when they finally arrive, there's nothing to cite. So as we mentioned, this is just one of many discussion items we'll have for this. And hopefully for the next one, we can have, our sheriff here or someone from the sheriff's office to talk about that.
Vice Chair, yeah, the sheriff's office will be happy to participate in these conversations. We don't have them here today because I wanted to have a more broad conversation. I know if the sheriff's office here, we'll spend 90 minutes talking about enforcement and we won't get kind of an opportunity to have a more broad dialogue. So we will absolutely bring the sheriff's office to a meeting. We can talk we can have a meeting just about enforcement if the council would like. But for today, in order for us to get off on the right foot and head in the right direction, we didn't want to get bogged down in an enforcement conversation, because I do think while enforcement is one part of it, it's a much bigger issue than just enforcement. I wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to capture that.
Anything else before we go on to public comment?
I'll go.
Sure, yeah. No, go ahead.
Okay. We bring up the topic of the sheriff, and we're talking about the priority areas. I would think, Nicholas, hopefully that the sheriff would have data with regard to complaints. And we can just literally take that data and identify the neighborhoods where the majority of the complaints are coming in. You bring up a good topic, though, when you talk about causes and things. I mean, it's a neighborhood primarily of small houses, a lot of homes that were built in the 40s and 50s when people had one car. And now you've got larger families living in these houses. Maybe they've added on, still have a one-car garage. So that's going to add to our problem. The same thing with some of the apartment buildings we have. We've got a lot of buildings with two-bedroom apartments. At the time they were built, you probably had two people living in a two-bedroom apartment or something like that. Now we have families, multiple families sharing apartments. All of which is to say there are problems and causes that we really can't do anything about, just the nature of our community. Your other point, and I think it's a really, really valid one that we need to think about, is kind of point solutions and things. Identify some of these problems and then come up with point solutions that won't solve the whole problem, but they'll solve an aspect of the issue we face. People storing multiple vehicles on the street, long-term storage and things like that, inoperable vehicles. I mean, we could do a cash for clunkers program, get rid of your old car, here's $250, something like that.
It offers 1,000 now.
Multiple businesses, parking vehicles outside of a single home, the car shops, the landscaping businesses. I think we need to do something to mitigate that. That's just not what our residential parking should be used for. And then something Palo Alto does, I know, where they restrict parking in residential areas, off of University Avenue, which is obviously primarily commercial. They restrict parking during the day in the residential areas that border that. Now, Palo Alto has multi-story parking, things like that, so they can encourage people to use that rather than parking on residential streets. But another example of kind of a point problem, point solution that we could think about. But to your point, one size fits all isn't, applicable for our neighborhood.
I got an idea, not an idea, but to add to since we're discussing problems. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So one thing to add is we've got all this additional apartment buildings and affordable housing development that's being built. Not all of these have parking spaces for each unit being developed. So even if we do have a parking program, how do we account for all that extra street parking that's going to be covered? That's going to be utilized by some of these residents. If we can't, we got to take that into account. There's going to be a lot of additional parking requirements that are going to be needed.
Councilmember Daly?
So I'm going to go back to, we've heard from residents now for my 4 years, almost every other meeting, about their own issues with parking and their quality of life. So as much as a former small business owner, I support all the business things, but I think what I really want us to focus on is the residential parking and some of the problems that exist with residential parking. And that is Edison Way, from like 5th Edison Way down to 2nd, across over the business. I can tell you that there are 60 teachers who circle the school, KIPP school, looking for parking during the school year that get $60 tickets for a day of parking. So I'd like to just focus on an area where we know that there are people whose quality of life is compromised by some of the issues, and then address it by saying, we know we have too many cars, we have too many commercial vehicles, we have commercial vehicle abuse, so we have commercial business owners abusing our streets, We have some empty lots. And one of the other things is, and this was passed over in Friendly Acres in Redwood City, where people use garbage cans to block off parking. And I can tell you a couple of residents along Fair Oaks Avenue that I walk by every morning. There's one guy's got 6 cans out there. And they stay there. And now, do I want to see him fined, or do we want to have a conversation with the residents along Fair Oaks that says, you know, you can't really do that. And it's no longer allowed in Redwood City in Friendly Acres. So I think going back to like pinpointing a few things that we could start and that, you know, that are somewhat simple, but also complicated, but takes conversations. Somebody needs to go talk to the commercial business owners and say, we can't do this anymore. I don't want to just start issuing tickets. I want to have conversations that say, this is a community and their residents' lives are, you know, are not fair because of what you're doing. So I'm for door-to-door talking in some of these real problem areas.
In the area you're referring to, I'm sorry, that's the Middlefield to Edison. I think you said 2nd to 5th. Is that?
So if I were to draw, I would go 5th, Edison, 2nd, down around it's Hampshire, Oakside, Fair Oaks, down to 5th Avenue. That is like a key residential area that, and we've heard from those people.
Okay.
Great. Councilmember Whitney.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak again on this matter. Back in grad school, I looked at parking and they have the business districts, and they had like a parking district to support the neighborhood business district. And I looked at like Los Gatos and Campbell, and Menlo Park has one. That's where you like set up a surface lot behind like the main strip. And this serves multiple purposes. One, you get a programmable community space where you can do the farmers markets. You can start doing flea markets. You can start doing fairs and festivals. 2, you can also assemble parcels and land bank it so that when the financing is available, you can go ahead and put in more mixed use affordable housing. We're at a crossroads here where the state is technically kind of broke again, and they're gonna try to balance the budget, but they're not gonna have enough money, and they're not gonna be able to raise taxes fast enough. So it's not a great time to ask for hundreds of millions of dollars, but with the means at our disposal, we could start assembling about a half block in from the main strip, some parcels. And with the notion that this is going to become infill, because one of the biggest barriers to actually getting a large project built is having 2 or 3 adjacent parcels assembled. And, you know, rather than have a tower in the middle of a neighborhood, if we could have that close to the main, you know, Middlefield strip or the El Camino strip, that's kind of ideal. That's kind of like urban planning nirvana, where you get residents that are going to be walking to and from their apartment and patronizing the businesses. So I really like the idea of like a long-term win-win scenario where we start creating more parking opportunities. Short-term, you might lose some parcels, but you know, as maybe like an auto shop closes or like a really, really rundown house or apartment, you know, becomes available, you can get 2 or 3 parcels and it can turn into like a pocket park, community space, parking thing. And the plan is in 10 years or 15 years, we're going to put up that 6 to 8 story or whatever we can afford, so that we can house school teachers and librarians and maybe even like city planners. I don't know. But I like what we did with the Redwood Junction, where we included all the categories of affordable housing, because a lot of times it's like the super poor people that are fresh off the streets, and it kind of turns into a ghetto really fast. But Redwood Junction has like the 40%, 60%, 80%, 100% tier all mixed in, so that children can grow up in an environment where there's like a rookie police officer across the hall. There's a librarian or teacher. It's not just people fresh off the street living off of general assistance and whatnot. In the veteran community, they've done a lot of housing just for like formerly homeless veterans. And some of those have like really turned ghetto within like the first 5 to 10 years. And it's not the most healthy, productive environment. It's better than living on the streets, but people need positive role models. They need folks that are actually making an effort to better themselves, live in the same building or the same complex. And we kind of have that with the naturally affordable housing in North Fair Oaks. And as we move forward, creating new housing stock, I hope we continue to include that. And I think it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. We don't have to make sure that people lose and get punished. We don't have to point at this business or that homeowner. I think we can create like abundant opportunities that everyone can share a part of. Anyway, that's my hope.
Any other comments?
One more, sorry. In my limited research, but I did do some research on insurance for parking lots, and it's actually not as bad as one would think. It's not as expensive as one would think, which I was going to challenge our friends at Stanford over telling us that they couldn't help with parking along Bay Road. I think as we look at this new hospital program being built and what's going to happen with parking in residential areas in North Fair Oaks with this development, I'm of the belief that they owe us something. But then also too, there is money in parking lots. And so there's like a couple churches in North Fair Oaks. I just wonder if we went to the pastor and said, hey, put a little money in your coffers here, start charging for residents that might want, a safer place to park, and they maybe pay $1 a day or something to the church, and the church makes a little bit of money. But those are just grassroots conversations that have to happen. But just some ideas.
Any in-person or public comment on Zoom?
Hold on. Through the vice chair, just for clarification, are we not going through all the prompts first, or are we done and then just jumping into public comment?
We'll jump into public comment.
Okay. We do have a few speakers have submitted. So when I call your name, you may come up to the podium. We'll go with Lorraine Ramirez first, followed by Manuel, and then Gabriella. Oh. Sorry.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for your time. Thank you for bringing this up. My name is Lorraine, and I am a lifetime resident of North Fair Oaks. So I've seen it evolved and coming to this point where the parking has been a huge issue of quality of life for my family and I. And so I just like to mention in regards to when you mentioned the goals, I felt like all of those are goals that we need to hit. And so it's hard to just pick one of those that you outlined earlier in your presentation. But I also felt, I understand the concept of in regards to only maybe focusing on a certain section of North Fair Oaks. My only concern with that moving forward is how if there's going to be restrictions in one area, how that's going to bleed over into other areas. So that's my fear, is that, I would hate for us to have some kind of restriction in parking and then it then affect another neighbor, a few blocks down. The other thing is I like also, I was going to bring up, thank you for bringing up mentioning purchasing lots for parking. The county has already done that by doing that on Middlefield and Second, and I feel that that's helped tremendously for the residents there in that area, as well as the businesses in the area. When the other thing is when planning, I really think we should look at not approving, planning should not be approving any more developments that does not have sufficient parking. It's not reasonable. We're a growing community, and to have these new developments coming in and not having enough parking is just adding to the issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Manuel Ramirez. I've been dealing with some of these issues for quite a while when I was sitting there with you are now at the Plan Commission. So I'm very familiar with all these problems in the area. And I would say that there's several layers, and we really need to sit down and figure out what the solutions are. We are, like my wife just pointed out, we are allowing a lot of, new housing that does not have enough parking, like you just did a little while ago. So I think that limiting time zones is something that it's now we need it. We really need it, because if we look around, the rest of the jurisdictions that surround us have already done it. And so we are now paying for the consequences of what they've done. Look at Redwood City, Menlo Park, Belmont, all around us, especially for commercial vehicles. They've already implemented restrictions there, and that's one of the main reasons that we now have so much commercial vehicles that do not belong to us in our area. So I really think that we need to look into that and start to create our own restrictions around this area, so that we at least have enough parking for the people that work in this area, and to have enough parking. Let me see. Storage. You mentioned about the storage of vehicles around here. There are a lot of companies that again bring their own inventory around this area, and they don't work off of they don't have their offices here. So anyway, I think we need to look into that.
If I can I need to just better understand that in my notes. Are you saying that businesses in North Fair Oaks? Sorry,
Brian.
Are you saying that businesses in North Fair Oaks are bringing vehicles in and storing them here, or businesses that are outside of North Fair Oaks, the owners of the business don't live in North Fair Oaks, they're entirely unassociated with North Fair Oaks, are coming in here and storing vehicles?
Businesses that are not in North Fair Oaks, construction companies that are bringing their large vehicles to park in our streets. Their offices are around us, but not within, North Fair Oaks or even Redwood City. So they're bringing a lot of their inventory here, especially on the weekends. But overnight, if you go around, you'll see that there's quite a bit of them storing their vehicles around this area.
Okay, so employees are using them during the day, and then they're storing them in North Fair Oaks at night.
Not necessarily using them, or they're not sending their inventory with their employees. They especially larger vehicles, they don't have a place to park them, so they do bring them here and they park them here, and they stay here for days at a time. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. After Gabriella, we'll hear from Ever online.
Can we ask the gentleman again before what street that was on, so we can put it down as the problem area?
Edison.
Okay, thank you.
So we have, I would say, Edison. We have Second. We have Oakside. But anything I would say east of Middlefield into that area, between the residential and commercial, is heavily impacted by that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. First, I want to thank everyone for working to bring this important discussion forward. And I appreciate talking about possible solutions and identifying the problems first. My suggestion would be that we work on the easiest solutions first. Because I feel like if we don't even deal with the things that are so obvious, how are we going to tackle the more difficult issues, right? And so, for example, targeting abandoned vehicles, targeting, as Manuel said, businesses using street parking as storage. We see that all the time. I personally see every single day, and Nick, you can come and I can show you, these large trucks that are parked overnight, and the employees seem to come in several vehicles, smaller vehicles. They come and they park their small vehicles and they take the truck during the day. And then at the end of the day, they bring the truck back and they take their small vehicles. And these are people that do not live here. But unfortunately, we also have businesses or residents that do have large businesses that don't have proper storage for their large number of vehicles. And so I think in that case, if a business doesn't have enough storage in their home and they're taking up a lot of space with the large vehicles, that's when I think in having a conversation and dealing with that would be helpful. But I feel like we have to deal with the first with the largest issues that are easier to tackle. But I think that without any meaningful enforcement, it's just not going to work. And so, for example, if you have a 2-hour, 3-hour parking right now on Middlefield Road, but yet every time you go by, same cars are parked there, and I can show you photos. It just doesn't work, right? So I'm glad that we're talking about it. I do think that it's necessary to have a longer period of time to explore the options and to rank the problems appropriately. But thank you for bringing this up.
Thank you.
And then we have Ever online. Ever, you may begin with your public comment.
Thank you, and hello, council members. Good evening. My name is Ever Rodriguez, longtime resident here. Good to see you all. Thank you for bringing this up for discussion. So the areas that are residential but bordering with light industrial areas should be treated differently from regular residential areas, just as some residential areas that are next to commercial areas should be treated differently, as the needs tend to be different and the residents are affected in different ways. For example, just to continue with the large trucks being parked overnight, for some people who live in the East Bay, but they either don't want to pay for parking there or drive their trucks all the way across the bay. They leave them here, they take their small vehicle home, and then the next day they come back and pick up their truck and park their car here. So they're using these, North Fair Oaks as their parking facility, essentially. And then second, I would extend looking into the parking problems along Edison Way all the way to First Avenue, because if you drive around, First Avenue and Edison Way, it is a real mess, particularly because all those car repair shops that are out there. Sometimes it's impossible to get through First Avenue. But anyway, then on the commercial corridor in Middlefield Road, I've only seen 2-hour parking limits. However, I haven't seen yellow areas that may allow business to park for loading and unloading, which creates problems for them. And sometimes they park, double line. And just the last point, whatever programs we consider implement, they should be accompanied by regular enforcement. As people, when they see that enforcement is very relaxed, they don't care. And just finally, we need to continue promoting using public transportation, getting rid of all junkers that we think we're going to fix, but we never do, and providing alternatives for getting rid of those, and just making it easier for people to, by adding bike lanes, better infrastructure, and safer pedestrian walkways. Thank you.
Thank you, Ever. I'd like to call Lorraine back up for a public comment.
Thank you again for the opportunity. I appreciate it. Really quick. I forgot to mention earlier, and I live close to Northside Avenue, which there's a lot of parking on both sides, and that street, it feeds into, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the company. I'm sorry, TE. And there's a lot of overflow parking from the apartments that are on Oakside and from different parts of the neighborhood. But that's a dangerous street, because when there's parking on both sides, it's hard for traffic to maneuver on that street. Plus, TE has trucks that come, and it's been multiple times where I have seen trucks having to make this wide turn and back up, and it takes them a while to be able to maneuver in there. So there needs to really be either that street needs to be a one-way or only parking on one side of the street. And I understand, that because of the apartments, there's that overflow on that side, but it's dangerous, the safety on that. The other part the other street where I feel is also can be dangerous is the corner on Edison and First. It's a blind spot. And, I'm surprised we haven't seen a lot of accidents there, but if you're coming from Sports House and turning left to go onto Middlefield, that's a blind spot. A car can, they can just hit each other. So in the parking right there, people park right there on the corner, and they park on both sides. But if something can also be done right there to help with the safety issue there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Last call for public comment for this item before we move on. Oh, Manuel.
Sorry, one thing I wanted to bring up is that perhaps what we need to do is to create an ad hoc committee to really hammer down all these issues and sit down with actual, the plan of the area and figure out exactly what the different needs are in the different areas, so that, some of the members here can sit down and bring, people who are interested from the public to bringing the ideas and really hammer out what the solution should be. And then with the help of the county, come up with the solutions that we're seeking.
Thank you.
Oh, so seems like we have another public comment.
Real quick, my name is Stephanie. I like, Gabby, your idea of tackling the low-hanging fruit, because I think that will alert people if we start there. My biggest concern is safety, especially RVs on 2nd Avenue. Because people will kind of barbecue on the sidewalk, or they'll have a dog, and I don't know how aggressive this dog is. So I'm playing like leapfrog, crossing streets to make sure we're just staying safe. And my sister has a baby with the stroller, and I just tell her, just skip that street because it's just, they're just camping there. So if someone could, I think that's low hanging fruit where someone just constantly shows these RVs some better places to park. I don't know where there's North Fair Oaks or Wood City or wherever, but I'm hoping maybe we need some RV parks somewhere for those people. And then I'm thinking about license plate readers really being like looking where people are coming from, having conversations. Right on Edison, I see a lot of people that, yeah, they use it as a park and ride. As mentioned, just in the mornings, it's so busy with humans coming in and then it's quiet. And then in the afternoon, it's like Tetris where they're just reparking cars. And that's not safe for bicyclists, scooters, and sports house. It's just, it's crazy with people trying to repark cars. But those were my, the things that I'm seeing and that I'm most concerned with. Thank you.
The RVs are, you said the barbecuing?
Yeah, they're either barbecuing there or they're just hanging out because there are usually folks there that don't work. And so they're just on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
It's- Yeah.
Okay.
But I have seen though, there's some families there. There's kids that I see on the sidewalk. It's really sad to see, but then a lot of them are older adults that don't work.
It is between Edison and Middlefield, not on the other side of Middle or.
Second.
Oh, okay.
It's in the city section, but it impacts us.
Yeah.
Adjacent to the Stanford property?
It's like, when I think of Second, I think of approaching that park, you know, the kids park and,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Venus. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm there, got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. If there's, yeah.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Gabriella?
Thank you. So another problem area to note is Second closest to Bay Road. And as Lorraine mentioned, the area of right, I don't remember the name of the street, but it curves around. And actually that street goes all the way to
Oakside.
Oakside. The number of cars that park on both sides make it so dangerous. And we have to remember that that street feeds into the school and it makes it very unsafe. But it's kind of the same situation that we see on First and Edison. And I think the problem is aggravated by the number of cars that are parked on both sides of the street. So I think we need to look at, like, you know, all of you have said, specific areas and what issues we're dealing with. And I really like Manuel's idea of creating like a task force. Thank you.
Sorry.
The safety with regards to Oakside, and this is something that actually I participated in a meeting with TE Electronics and former Supervisor Slocum, because we were very concerned about the safety issue there.
Yeah.
And we brought up the idea of creating a one-way street. And also TE at the time, they said that they were not going to bring any big vehicles into that area, so semi trucks, because it's extremely difficult for them to make that turn there. Because the concern for the community, concern for, you know, is that in case of a real emergency, because that's a large electronic factory, that if there's ever a fire back there, the emergency vehicles will not be able to get in there. And especially if there's cars trying to make it through and block that area, it creates a very serious hazard situation into that area. But anyway, that there was a talk, and again, TE did not on paper put that they were not going to use smaller trucks. They just, you know, said that they would, but they haven't. And sometimes they jackknife right into that thing, and it's extremely dangerous. I've had to, in the middle of the night, come out because there is someone that is trying to make the turn, and then they get stuck and they cannot see, you know, one side of the street or the other as they're trying to make their way out. And they're just there, you know, with the beeping on reverse, and it takes forever. And I've come out to help them, to let them know, it's okay to make the traffic, the turn and get out. Anyway, it's a very dangerous situation.
Thank you.
Ever, you can begin with your public comment.
Yeah, I also wanted to bring up another point, which is I'm not sure if everyone has heard about the possibility, is this in the works of shuttle potentially making the rounds around North Fair Oaks, providing free transportation for people who want to, kind of go around the community. And so that is a great idea because many times, even for a trip that's, I don't know, 5 minutes or something to the supermarket, we tend to grab the car and go. But, going back to Councilwoman Daly, she brought up the issue about the new clinic to be set up by Stanford University. And I know that many times, people don't want to ask for things, but I know that, especially dealing with Stanford, they need to be pushed to support the community they're coming into. And I know that they already have a shuttle system. I think that it would be, it wouldn't be too much to ask, for Stanford to make that shuttle go around the North Fair Oaks community. Right now, the shuttle only serves, their campus and goes straight to the Redwood City train station, and that's it. But if it came around the community and community members could utilize it as well, that shuttle, then, they would be providing a good service, good neighborly service to the community. And they're already spending the money. So, it's just a matter of maybe counting to push a little and tell them, hey, can you help us to provide free transportation for people here? Yeah, that was so my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments from council members?
By serendipity, I'd been waiting 10 minutes to bring up the Stanford Marguerite shuttle and I never nailed it. I've used that free shuttle. It goes from Walmart in Mountain View all through campus, hits the Menlo Park train station. Since they've expanded Redwood City, it goes to the Redwood City train station. It's a totally reasonable ask that they do a route from the Stanford Medical School, which is, the Stanford Shopping Center right there on the back side of it, to the Menlo Park train station, and then up Middlefield Road, encompassing all of North Fair Oaks, and then go visit their campus over by Bay Road, and then end at the Redwood City Caltrain station, and then circle back and repeat the route. It's free to ride, students, staff, or any member of the public. It's a great resource. And not everything is about having a car to drive. If there was a resource, a frequent shuttle every 15 or 20 minutes, people that, even can't imagine right now riding a shuttle, when they see someone else riding it and bringing back a couple bags of groceries, suddenly they'll get over their anxiety about transit and maybe try it. It's a great resource and it's a small ask. And I'm pretty sure Stanford, who hasn't gotten final approval on all this stuff because it's a big project, let's get in with the city and the county together and ask that we get an additional community benefit in the form of a shuttle dedicated to both servicing their constituency and the North Fair Oaks constituency.
Any of the council members, Daly?
Yeah, so I'm curious, do we feel that we would need a lot of data to understand or to put forth a request to the Board of Supervisors or Supervisor Gaucher to say, let's put forth an ordinance that limits commercial vehicles in North Fair Oaks? Like what would it take to design something like that? Do we, rather than wait another year and a bunch of committees, like if we already know that, hey, this one does affect us, what would stop us from starting to make that, start that conversation? And it may prompt some business owners to come forward to a meeting in September and state their case, but hey, this has gone public. We are gonna put our foot down when it comes to commercial vehicles in North Fair Oaks. What's stopping us from writing that ordinance? Or what do you think we need to do?
Can you define commercial vehicle a little bit just to help my thought process?
So there, I don't want to call out a name, but I know of a gardening service that I see their trucks on Edison Second in this area that we're talking about. And I've seen walking and driving by there as many as 5 or 6 trucks, probably more, but I'm saying like that is one for sure. Something that talks about the commercial businesses that have car lots or service. Those, if you own or if you bring cars into the neighborhood, you have 24 hours to get them out. What we know about the business across the street from the school, they go to the auctions on weekends, bring as many. I've been told like 30 or 40, like write an ordinance that says, hey, if anyone's doing anything like that, like my neighbor on the other side of Fair Oaks, it's not going to be allowed anymore. So like drafting that language and just like going forward with one thing that we know is a problem and we can kind of fix or try to fix.
Can you please come up to the mic, Lorraine? Thank you. No worries.
San Mateo has that ordinance. And when you go off of 92 onto Hillsdale Boulevard in San Mateo, if you've ever been off that exit, right off that exit, they have a huge sign saying no commercial vehicles overnight. And it lists, I took a picture of it and I can't find it right now, but there are already cities that have it that include commercial vehicles, RVs, certain big vehicles. So I think just a matter of looking at San Mateo that already has it would help it.
Well, so it's the ordinance is it's a no oversized vehicle ordinance. It's throughout the city of San Mateo. The county has it on the books. In fact, there is a street in North Fair Oaks that has the restriction on it. That Supervisor Slocum and now County Executive Mike Callaghy had worked to put in place. So for something like that, and we actually just did something similar on the coast side 2 months ago. Here in North Fair Oaks. Oh, okay. I have it on a map somewhere. I just need to find it. It is Spring Street. And in fact, I was talking to Tori Newman, our Director of Public Works, about that today. So how quickly could you do it? Well, theoretically, very quickly. If you were to do it, say for that Edison, call it 2nd through 9th even, what you're going to do though is there's a couple things. One, you're going to just push those vehicles just outside of that boundary. So now you're going to be playing a cat and mouse game where now instead of stopping at 9th, you're going to go down to 12th. Instead of stopping at Edison, maybe you're going down to Bay. You're just going to play a cat and mouse game. So you have to think this through. You have to really look at all the options on the table. The other thing we will need to look at is how, and I'll go driving after this meeting, take a look. The ordinance is very specific as to what an oversized vehicle is. I want to say it's something. Is it 10? Okay. I knew it was 8 or 10, but it's 10,000, 6 feet tall. I think our ordinance includes trailers, right? And so having to make sure that the vehicles we're talking about are, and that's why I asked if you could define a commercial vehicle, make sure that they actually qualify as an oversized vehicle. So there's a couple things that we really need to think through before we do this. Otherwise, we're not actually going to fix the problem. We're just going to move the problem. So theoretically, legally speaking, I would say, Brian, right? I mean, yeah, you could certainly. Jurisdictions that have recently done that have faced lawsuits, though. And so you have to, in addition to thinking through, okay, what you know, are you going to create a cat and mouse game? We have to think through the legal ramifications as well.
Any other council member comments?
I'm not saying no, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but what I'm simply saying is I think it's something that warrants a little bit more analysis, and not a 12-month analysis, but it warrants a little bit more thought and some conversations with Public Works and the Sheriff's Office, as well as kind of an analysis of what are the boundaries that we're looking at, right? And that's another reason why I want to go driving through and seeing what vehicles I would see at night, right? Because I've been seeing during the day. I'll be going actually out with one of the community service officers next Wednesday we're going to spend the whole day in North Fair Oaks. And so they're going to show me everything that they see on a regular basis. So I just want to make sure that we're keeping options on the table, but we're having to kind of go through the full thought exercise before we propose anything to the board.
Okay, so legally, if they didn't like it and they tried to sue, but what if you, in that ordinance, you gave them options for where they could go? Do they have a case then? I mean, they'll sue, people will sue no matter what. We're a litigious society, but I'm just curious, like if you wrote it, said, okay, now the old Kmart parking lot in Redwood City is now available for, you know, commercial vehicles for North Fair Oaks. If you're driving in from whatever, and you know, you've got an option now, you either do this or you get a huge fine, you know, like, I know that's like super hypothetical, but.
Just to give the council just a broad sense of the legal framework here. So when it comes to the vehicle code and putting restrictions on public roadways, the rule is that the county and other local agencies can only do what's expressly authorized in the code. So the vehicle code, parking restrictions are an area where as lawyers, we say that the state has sort of occupied the field of parking restrictions. And so there's a list of things that the county can do. So tools in its toolkit. One of those is the one that Nicholas mentioned, which is general parking restrictions on oversized vehicles. There's also special provisions specifically that address commercial vehicles parking specifically in residential areas that are over 10,000 pounds. And so I think part of what Nicholas is saying is that once he hears and has an opportunity to look into what the concerns are, we can match those to the specific enabling statutes that allow the county to put restrictions. But we do have to stay within the parameters of those restrictions. And the county doesn't really have the ability to tweak those. If the county is going to impose a parking restriction, it'll have to be consistent with the express language of the statute. Okay.
I have a comment I wanted to raise.
Go ahead.
Oh, great. Thank you. I just wanted to say that I received an email from a community member, and it also went to Supervisor Gouthey. I don't even know who all it went to. I sent it to Bo to send to all the board members. I met this community member at one of the cancer center engagement meetings. But I just wanted to flag that Bo's going to send it to all of the community council and Nick, just so that her voice and concerns, and she raises a very specific problem area and wanting red painted curbs. So that's all I just wanted to say. Not my comment, but just flagging for the record another community member's comment.
Councilmember Whitney?
I move that we form an ad hoc North Fair Oaks community parking study group with 2 members of the council, 2 members of the community, 2 county staff members, and the chair would be the supervisor or designee. So that gives us 7 members with the direction to come up with action items to address the multiple concerns around parking and to meet at least once before September and to complete and report out to the council no later than November with actionable recommendations and alternatives.
If I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
maybe we remove the November language from that recommendation, only because we may need more time than that if we want to put genuine actionable recommendations together.
Then a preliminary report must be due no later than November.
I'm always forgiving at the old college try. Just, I'm all right. I just, I want to flag that to get that together by November. We might still be in data collection phase or community engagement phase.
So we still could have a couple of hanging fruit items that could.
Can you speak into the mic, Councilmember Whitney? Thank you.
I thank you. I appreciate the reminder that we're in a hybrid meeting mode, and it's a disservice to our remote participants to not speak clearly into the microphone. The urgency of the feelings around this are such that there has to be like at least a hard preliminary deadline, and the council's session usually ends December, and we have a couple new members in January and we elect officers. So this session, going from like January to December, we should at least have a report out and try to get a couple low-hanging fruit items forwarded to the Board of Supervisors. So that's why I said November. We can always like punt it, but it doesn't hurt to put a deadline.
And then how many county staff were you looking for?
I just said two
Two.
county members, 2 county staff, whoever the county executive designates. And then the community members can be appointed by the supervisor, and then council members can either volunteer themselves or be voluntold that they're on the committee.
Sorry, so I just want to make sure. So the county can have someone from Public Works, someone from the sheriff's office, someone from, okay, someone from the county executive's office and, okay.
Okay, so before we move out to report out, I just wanted to make some last few comments. I've experienced that whole truck issue in Oakside with the TE company. Just last week, I actually saw, the truck backing up, moving up and backing up. So I know what you're talking about there. And then touching on Kathleen's point about, maybe checking in with like the church on by Second and Middlefield, like if we can use their parking, we can maybe also check in with TE if we can use their, gated parking on the weekends.
I tried.
And that's another idea.
I tried. They're 24/7.
Oh.
I knocked on their door and asked, but no.
And yeah, I think the parking committee idea is a good idea. So again, we can bring up this another discussion item for this in our August meeting. Yeah, let's.
Mr. Chair, there is a motion on the table that you just have to, address.
So we have a motion. Is there a second? I'll restate. So we have a motion to create a parking committee made by Councilmember Whitney Can we get a second?
Yep, motion dies for lack of a second.
Okay, so
So no motion.
Do nothing.
So we'll bring it back the discussion item at our next meeting. So now we're on item 6, report out. District 4 report.
Maybe, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. The quick report out for District 4 is that we do have a new hire, Travis here. He will be helping and supporting with NFL and a lot of other projects from our office, but we just want to make sure that you're all aware and the community is aware that our office has a new hire. Travis, I'm not sure if you want to introduce yourself.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Travis Dunn. I'm very happy to be here and to be involved with this. If you ever need anything, you can reach out to me directly through the supervisor's office, and just glad to be here. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
County Executive Office report.
Pulling it up.
My computer's now active. So you may have heard about recent state laws that have been affecting the rules around subdivisions in multifamily and single-family residential neighborhoods. And specifically, there was a Senate Bill SB 684, which took effect in July of 2024, allowing for streamlined ministerial processing of projects that are up to 10 homes or 10 parcels on vacant multifamily residential zone parcels. And further, SB 1123 took effect in July of 2025, which made it legal to build up to 10 homes on vacant lots in a single-family zoning district. It also requires jurisdictions to ministerially approve subdivision maps associated with a housing development up to 10 units, and requires agencies to issue building permits at the tentative map phase of the subdivision process. Because SB 1123 requires that qualifying projects be processed on a ministerial basis, they're also exempt from CEQA. So the Planning and Building Department recently issued an approval letter for a proposed project for the subdivision and construction of 9 single-family units at 443 Encina Avenue in North Fair Oaks. So the department has confirmed that the project is eligible for streamlined review under SB 1123, and we can get those letters out to the council. But ultimately, just want to put this on your radar that there will be that this project has been approved at 443 Encina for through the ministerial review process. So just wanted to make you all aware of that.
What does that mean? Does that skip the council?
Besides that parcel?
What was the address?
Sorry, that was 2 questions at the same time. Okay.
Do you know the size of the parcel, just out of curiosity?
I don't have the
443?
square footage of the parcel
Okay, thanks.
readily available at this time.
And I think they asked what was the address? George or Kelly? Is that what you guys asked?
No, but
No.
that's a good question as well.
443 Encina.
443?
Yes, that's
443 Encina comes up as Menlo Park.
Yeah, right there beside it, Menlo Park.
Yeah, it's unincorporated.
So does this mean that they skip the process before coming to council for review or anything?
Yes, ultimately, because there is no discretionary review in that sense.
Can have the proposals come forward to go to?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's been made aware, and the neighbors received notices as well. 9. It's 9. It's called middle housing. It's referred to as middle housing. So it's not going to be. They are single family units. Some of them are connected like townhomes. Some of them are freestanding.
What kind of housing is this? Is this for like halfway housing? Is it being sold as individual units? Regular
So
market rate?
I could not tell you at this time if they're rental or ownership.
Okay.
So the letters are going out to residents. Will this come back with a public works report for community input and a recommendation from this council?
No, it's already approved. So because of the way the state law was drafted, the county has to essentially approve it at a ministerial level. And the typical process that you would see when a project like this would have come forward 5 years ago is no longer followed. And that's again state law, so that's entirely out of our control.
Can we get a copy of this letter that's going out to residents?
Yep. I have not been part of those conversations yet.
Anything else?
Who can give us details on this project?
I'm sorry?
Who can give us details on
That
what's
would be
being?
the planning and building department.
Yeah, it's online. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we will move on to council member report. Any council members have anything to report?
Wonderful meeting. I look forward to.
Speak into the mic.
Another wonderful meeting. This is like peak of local government, and I deeply regret that we're not going to meet in July. But I look forward to our next get together in August after the July recess.
Anyone on Zoom?
Kelly or George, do you have any report outs or anything to say?
No, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I will report out really quickly. We had an item, I believe, last month about from the sustainability department, I believe, about the whole. Well, I think one of the things we touched upon was about dumping in North Fair Oaks. On Hampshire Avenue, I actually saw a couple reports there about dumping, and the ticket got closed, but the trash is still there. And then another thing, I think it was last year already, 12 months ago, or in the May 2025 meeting, we got a presentation about the Middlefield Road project. And something that was touched upon was the Fair Oaks Clinic and Redwood City Junction, the Redwood Junction traffic signal activation, that it was going to take 1 to 3 months, but it's been 12 months and it's still not, the traffic signal's still not on. So if we can probably look into that for an update from our department was. And then I believe, yeah, like Blair mentioned, we're not going to have a meeting next month. So yeah, enjoy your recess. Anything else? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. I will second.
You can say.
They meeting adjourned.
Okay, so thank you. The time is now 8:59 and the meeting is now adjourned.